Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody here to the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners, November 13th, 2018. And would you all please stand and pledge allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Forgot to get the gavels maybe.
That's okay.
So we have our agenda review this morning. Bob, do you have any additions or?
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval and a second. Is there any more discussion or additions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Our first item of business this morning is going to be with Mr. Ryan Tilges, our county engineer. Come on up, Ryan, Public Works.
Morning, Ryan.
Morning.
How are you today?
Good.
Well, I don't have quite as action-packed of an agenda as we did last month, so thanks for bearing with me through all of that. The first order of business is consideration of the final payment for County Project number 791, which is the Rapidan Dam Stabilization Project. The final payment amount is $19,892.95. As you recall, this was part of our DNR Dam Safety Grant for $2.4 million that covered the work on this project.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion from Commissioner Strumberg and a second from Commissioner Brunder to approve this final payment. It's to Kramer North America, LLC? Correct. And the total amount here looks like the revised contract was $1,976,754.87.
Correct, and as you recall with this project, we did have considerable overrun because the scope of work grew considerably with the downstream apron repairs. The scour holes were considerably larger than what we originally thought when we went into it. Required additional pumping, required additional concrete, more stages of the project as we repaired the downstream aprons. And as you're all aware, watching those projects progress, that work is very difficult. We never really achieved the low flows that we had anticipated. The contractor wanted to get it done, so we forged ahead and were able to get it successfully completed, and I am confident this repair should have longer lasting effects and better impact than the previous repairs, where I really think we did a better job of getting everything dewatered and making sure that we got everything tied in with stronger steel, more intense spacing. So.
That's amazing because that river has been high all year just about, really.
Yeah, Mother Nature hasn't done us any favors.
It's amazing.
Are we done working on that dam for a while?
Except for the windows. You gotta get the
I'm
windows.
glad Commissioner Purvis laughed first.
Yeah.
No, as part of the, and in fact that's one of my later items to discuss, but as part of that remaining funding that we have, we've used that dam safety grant to pay for obviously the construction work, as well as some of our staffing costs and the cost to our external subconsultant, Kleinschmidt North America. I'm sorry, Kleinschmidt Consulting. The contractor was Kramer North America. So we have about $250,000 left on the dam safety grant, and we approved that extension a couple of months ago of the dam safety grant agreement with the plan of moving forward with refacing that left wall. And with that work, we do have a preliminary set of plans developed with Kleinschmidt. They've been submitted to Ontario Power Generation, that is now the owner or the lessee of the dam. They are the company that bought out Eagle Creek Renewable Energy. So they're looking at the plans right now with the intent to submit them to the FERC for their approval. So then we could bid the work this ideally January or February and get it out there for construction in 2019.
Okay.
Under no other circumstances could we say dam safety grant.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. So we are trying to utilize that remaining $250,000 that's on that state grant that we have, just so that we can utilize every dollar. It will require some of our local dollars to match, but I think it's critical to get that work done as long as we've got that available and to leverage those dollars.
You don't remember how many truckloads of cement it took to put in there, do you? Because it was probably
I don't have it off the top of my head.
Right?
Yeah, I know on the last repair, over 400 trucks.
400 trucks the last time.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Was this one as big? I mean, is this,
I don't have the number.
you don't, okay, just curious.
All right.
Financially,
All right.
yes.
Yeah, financially.
Yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay.
Thank you. Second order of business is consideration of bids for bridge repairs on County State Aid Highway 9, 16, 33, and 38. These are 4 bridges that are in fair condition. That there's a strip seal expansion joint at the point where the bridge intersects with the road. So there's a metal channel that has a rubber strip seal in between that actually tries to keep moisture from coming down between the road and the abutment and creating erosion. On these 4 bridges, those strip seal joints are severely deteriorated, so we're getting erosion issues at the abutments where the water coming off of the road is actually falling down at that interface and eroding around the piling and the riprap. So we did send out a request for bids to several different contractors. We received 2 responses back, one from PCI Roads, who has high level of expertise in this type of work, and a second from Icon Constructors, who's worked for us frequently on bridge construction projects. PCI Roads bid for the 4 bridge repairs was $148,380. Icon Constructors was $232,050. We staged this so that the contractor would have time to work on it over the course of next year. There's no tremendous urgency. They've been this way for a while, but we want to get it addressed before it gets continually worse. With that being said, I would recommend award to PCI Roads.
So moved.
Second.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Brunder and a second from, I think, Commissioner People. And then these weren't probably all scheduled on our normal schedule then, were they? I mean, these were probably bumped up.
These repairs, yeah, we did not have these for in our typical construction budget. These would be more along the lines of our our county stated highway maintenance funds that we would use to pay.
As I was going to ask you, how are you going to pay for it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any questions or further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
All right. The third order of business is consideration of a professional services agreement with SRF Consultants for County State Aid Highway 27 reconstruction from Minnesota Highway 14 to County State Aid Highway 2. This is for professional services for plan design, construction documents, specifications, as well as assistance with environmental permitting and wetland delineations. We solicited proposals from 3 consultant firms. SRF was the apparent low bid at their total of 190, sorry, tab.
196,797.
Yeah, I'm going to say we're 197. 196, what Commissioner Brunder said, approximately 197,000. The second proposal we received was from Bolton and Mink at about $100,000 more.
Okay.
We did not receive a response from Stonebrook because they had just received significant workload on other projects and did not feel that they'd be able to deliver this on the time frame that we had requested. As you may recall from our previous discussions, this is typically the type of project we would like to do in-house. But because we have the turnback dollars, the sales tax dollars all compounding along with our county stated highway funding, and because of the delays we've experienced recently with environmental permitting and right-of-way acquisition, we felt it was really imperative to get this one out a year ahead and try to get a jump on the cycle as far as design and construction, right-of-way acquisition and permitting. So we wanted to bring SRF to get those plans done and help us with the workload that we're facing. So I would recommend award to SRF.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Brunder, second from Commissioner Stuenberg. And this is that road we also saw on our road tour, isn't it? We drove along it.
Yep, northeast
Shared
side of
some
Eagle
things.
Lake up to the North County line.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this road will probably require some adjustments in the...
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's going to be...
The intent would be that on the southern approximate 3 miles or so, that we would reclaim the road, replace the drainage pipes, widen shoulders, push the ditches out. So we'd really be able to follow the existing alignment and profile for the most part. When we get to that northern segment, we're going to take a very close look at trying to provide corrective action to the curves that do not meet 55-mile-an-hour design standards. Some are fairly simple fixes. One will be a little bit more complicated, so when we get into the nuts and bolts of the design, we'll have a closer evaluation as far as the benefit and cost of moving the road to fit that 55-mile-an-hour design curve. You know, one of the struggles we have is, does it make fiscal sense? Environmentally, is it achievable? But it's also the imperative that we really only get to do this once every 60 years. So when we go through and do these types of things, we want to make sure that we get them as well done as we can so that they can serve for the future needs.
It'll be interesting to see what we come up with, that curve at Lake George with the two gravel road accesses.
That's very challenging intersection.
That's going to be interesting. We own all that right away though in that triangle.
We own that triangle, I think, and typically what we do there is we would take away the triangle and bring it to a tangent intersection, so.
It'll be neat to see the design.
What's the weight classification on the road right now?
Right now, I believe it's 9-ton. I don't believe it's full 10
so
ton.
we'll bring
it to a 10-ton modern design with the wider shoulders, similar to County State Highway 1, the other segments of 10. What we did on CSAH 14 as well, be very similar in design to those projects.
Again, I asked this a couple weeks ago when we were doing a road tour and stuff, but if we'd look at putting in conduit, so while the road is being built, with the possibility of having fiber that could be placed there in the future. We have one problem in the county with having not enough internet ability for rural portions, and that would be a great start, since we're just looking at this right now and seeing what that would cost and what that, if that's even feasible for the county to do.
As the design begins, we'll take a look at what the preliminary cost would be and then make a determination, I think, and as we discussed too, having conversation with some of those service providers, is there a model agreement that we could get in place where they would be obligated to pay back or buy back a share of that
when it's being used type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can take a look at what those costs would be and have future discussions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I remember too, Vance, thanks for bringing that up. We covered it once in one of our work sessions within the last year or two, looking at, what do we need to do to kind of prepare our county for more infrastructure that way with fiber. And so I won't be here, but I'm hoping that maybe the board and our new commissioner comes on board, might have some good information and connections to try to set up a plan for extending fiber throughout our county. Just at least find out what it is we have to do and what the cost could be. The longer I know we wait, the more. Yeah, but I will be curious to see what our estimated costs are for installation with the project and what their perceived costs are, to see where that spread is and benefits and drawbacks of both. So. And then, even though there's not going to be a lot of changes that seem to impact the landowners, would we still do your normal thing where you have the Public Works open house and people can come check out? On this large of a project, we would definitely want to have the open house meeting, just to allow people to come in and look at the concept. In the areas where we are looking at realigning to meet the 55-mile-an-hour design standard, then we would probably try to meet with some of those heavily impacted folks even ahead of time, but absolutely have the open house.
Yeah, they've actually got money built into the budget.
For that? Yep. Good.
Line item for it.
That's nice. Very nice. Any other comments or questions for this project?
All right. We vote on it?
No. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
I see you get this Minnesota Infrastructure Report card here.
Yes. But you're jumping ahead of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Stick to the agenda.
Yeah.
Actually, that was given out at the Minnesota Transportation Alliance meeting as well, so I thought that was good timing to have it included for all of your information.
Good.
Just as an update on some of our construction projects, County State Aid Highway 1, Old Minnesota Highway 66, the reconstruction project from 90 to Mankato, as well as the South Surcharge. The contractor is continuing to forge ahead in spite of the colder temperatures temperatures. They intend to continue working as long as feasible. So the reinforced soil slope that we looked at while we were out on our road tour should be completed as far as the construction of that today. The contractor's also working this week and part of next week on the storm sewer and drainage along the project. So getting the majority of it in that area to tie into the outlet down the hill to facilitate drainage throughout the winter and obviously for the future. They're also going to look at putting in where you may term it the waterfall area, where the majority of the water comes out of the skyline area and has caused severe erosion on the hillside. They're looking at getting that structure and those fused HDPE pipes that run down the hill installed prior to the winter so that we can address some of those erosion issues and not have to deal with it throughout the winter. So they want to get that work completed, get the gravel base on the new road alignment segment over the RSS, get that completed. Prior to winter operations, we are meeting and discussing with them routinely, making sure that we both have the same vision as far as timing goes and getting the road reopened to traffic on an interim basis over the course of the winter. There will still continue to be a significant amount of construction signage out there to advise people of any areas where they need to be cautious, but we do want to get traffic returned on that for the winter to help serve the residents as well as Mount Cato.
I can attest it. They're working hard.
Absolutely. In addition to that, the southern surcharge area, we really have no news from the Army Corps of Engineers with respect to the archaeological impacts area. We're going to give it a little bit of time. There was a turnover with our Army Corps of Engineers liaison position. The person that was there that was helping us left. A new person has come on, so I think early December we're going to actually request a meeting just to have a face-to-face with the person and express our concern and wanting to continue to forge ahead with this and push. County State Highway 12, Stage 5, we've been open to traffic for some time now, but the majority of actually all of the major work items have been completed. There are still a few punch list cleanup type of items that need to be done. Trail's been paved, turf establishment has been put in, but the contractor will continue to work on that as, at this point, time and weather permit. There may be a few items that have to be touched up next spring as well. 90 and 22 roundabout, that was a cooperative project that was led and administered by the Minnesota Department of Transportation. That was open to traffic and is functioning very well. I've heard a lot of positive feedback about that project, so that was a great application of our federal highway safety improvement dollars.
Oh, what a great interchange to get done too. That was so dangerous there.
Absolutely.
And what a great interchange to get done.
To put in a project like that you know is certainly going to save lives is very rewarding. Rapid and Dam left wall repairs, I think we've covered that already. We're continuing to push that forward. And then we had 4 bridge replacements, large box culverts on CSAH 40, 2 on County Road 144, and 1 on County Road 111. We are finalizing the contract documents and bonds, and then we will be looking at beginning with those early in 2019. Planning projects update, CSAH 1 from 9 to 90. Has really been on hold because our right-of-way acquisition efforts have been focused on getting 14 and now moving on to 10, as well as 17. So that's sat idle. The plans are effectively done. We're just waiting to include any right-of-way comments that we may have. And now knowing that project is probably going to be pushing, moving back to 2020 to start it, that really takes away some of the urgency. So we are still continuing to try to work with the impacted landowners along that stretch as well. 14 from 30 to 4. The plans are completed. We just recently received the Army Corps of Engineers permit within the last few weeks. I think we talked about that on our road tour a little bit. That permit application was submitted late March or early April. So it took a really long time to get that completed permit back. That's been a considerable delay on many of our regrading type of projects. We're wrapping up the right-of-way acquisition for that, and we would intend to advertise for bids in either January or February 2019 for construction to begin right away in spring. And then the last one on the list is the CSAH 17 and Hafner Drive roundabout. We had very good business meetings with the impacted businesses on the adjacent corners of the project, as well as the IRC Retail Center. Talked about access with them, and we're working through that process. We also had a public open house meeting, had somewhat low attendance, maybe surprising, maybe not, given we had several community outreach meetings prior to deciding to moving forward with the project. But the feedback was positive that we did receive, and we're moving forward with the design on that. We're actually beginning right-of-way documents and appraisals as well, so that we can begin a right-of-way acquisition for that.
I think we figured out that's because you guys have been working with those local, call them neighbors, but they're all business owners.
Absolutely.
And so they'd already had good discussions with you and with your staff.
Yep.
And with consultants probably, were they at any of the meetings?
Yeah, actually, the staff from Bolton and Mink went with us to those meetings so that they could incorporate any of those concerns as far as design right away. So it worked out very well.
Yeah.
Very good approach.
So it probably wasn't that surprising, like you said, that we had a lower turnout.
Right, right.
For the open house.
Absolutely. And then just miscellaneous items update. Included in your board packet is the American Society of Civil Engineers Minnesota Infrastructure Report Card. And so I really won't, I don't want to read it all. You guys have seen it. But it's fairly concerning when we look at the state of our bridges. The state of Minnesota received a grade of C. I'd like to think that as Minnesotans we're more capable than a C grade. On roads especially, a D+. Very concerning. So again, I think we're doing better than that, but it definitely exemplifies the need to continue to have that local option sales tax in place, putting it to work in Blue Earth County to do better than a D+.
If you drive trips through Minnesota, though, you do find a lot of roads that are pretty...
Especially, yes.
Well, I'll say up north, some of them are still in pretty rough shape.
Absolutely.
And it's no wonder why MnDOT did that. They did a lot of work for meetings to try to decide how to do their 5-year, 10-year plan.
Yes.
And maybe even 20-year. And the initial feedback that came back was people chose to try to keep the roads in better repair over building new roads, full reconstructions, and that sort of thing. So
Absolutely.
they wanted surface repairs for driving on.
Preservation of the existing assets is very critical. Yep.
And so that's where the focus is with MnDOT, especially since their transportation dollars, as Vance could attest to, aren't as healthy as they could be.
Absolutely. And we'll see what this next legislative session brings. It sounds like there may be some promise for additional funding that would definitely help that situation, but time will tell. Next item is just a reminder, we do have our County Road Safety Plan workshop November 28th from 9 a.m. to 1:30. An email was sent out. If you would like to register for that, please fill out the link on the email and submit that to the consultants that we're working with. Right now we have 13 attendees lined up, including some of our own staff. So hopefully that should be a productive meeting, get some community feedback about safety treatments and also the opportunity to educate the public and some of those partners that we have about how we go about these projects and how we prioritize and evaluate those items.
Where's that meeting going to be at, Ryan?
That'll be at our office.
At the office? Okay.
Yep. And again, that's it's a considerable amount of time. Even if you'd like to stop in for lunch and visit with folks for half hour, 45 minutes, you could sign up for that and be welcome to do that as well. We will be providing a feedback report out to you later on during a work session following this meeting after we're able to assimilate all of the data.
Okay.
So there will be a subsequent work session to talk about it.
I just have a question too about related to this, I guess. Our weather, came upon us as far as staying. Once it got pretty cold, it stayed with us. Didn't warm up a lot for doing some of the extra work out on the roads. Wondering if we got caught with some roads that don't have lines or anything for the winter, or do we have some out there? Right
County
now?
Road 1 should be the only one.
That's the only one.
And that'll be, as we talked about, that'll be gravel in many areas, and the pavement's going to be there. Yeah, there's not really anything left of the markings that are out there because of the traffic on that road. But again, that's why we'll have some of those construction signage up to advise people to slow down and
From Good Thunder to
No, from the existing project.
Oh.
From 90 to Mankato.
From 90 to Mankato.
Aside from that, I can't really think of any
There's not much
projects that we
traffic on
didn't
that
get
anyway.
to completion on. The final stripes are down on 12,
Okay.
including the roundabout at Highway 83.
That's good to hear.
Yep.
Yeah. Safety.
And then the last item on my list is the Minnesota Highway 22 corridor study. Just as a brief update, we did recently complete a technical advisory committee meeting where we evaluated the draft final report. It was 167 pages. If anybody would like to read it, I'll happily share. It did look at Highway 22 all the way from Mapleton to St. Peter. So it's broken down into 3 separate segments, evaluating the lane configurations necessary in the roads, evaluating as it comes from Mankato whether or not they want to look at going to an urban or keeping it a rural design. And then for our information, really, I think our interest lies at our intersections with Highway 22. And there are recommendations for future intersection reconfigurations as traffic levels get worse at our 57, 26, 3, and then our leg of 60 where it ties into 83 and 22. We do plan on having a work session to let the consultants at SRF report out to you. So with that, I wasn't going to go into too much detail at this point in time, but provide a future work session. They are going to be reporting to the MAPO TAC. I think we have our meeting this Thursday, and then the policy board is early December.
December 6th.
So they'll report to the MAPO policy board as well, and then we'll line up a meeting where, whether it's a work session or a county board meeting, for them to come in briefly and give us an update on our intersections and some of the work that we've been doing. So it'll be a very valuable document when everything's said and done.
Quick question on that too. I mean, MnDOT took the lead on this, right? And they hired SRF?
The MAPO did, because the MAPO paid for the segment
For the
2.
planning.
Correct, because the MAPO paid for the segment 2 of the corridor study within the MPO limits.
Okay.
And then MnDOT paid for the
rest
north of
the
MPO
north.
to St. Peter, and then the south segment.
Okay.
Yep.
Did they ever have their final open public meeting about the corridor study or not? Are they going to wait, do you think? Because I heard there was going to be a final.
I'd have to check on
But
that.
maybe
I know
they're
they're
not
going to be presenting the final report to the city of Mankato and
Okay, maybe they won't
guys
have
as
a.
well. I don't
Yeah.
have anything on my calendar
Okay.
in the future that I'm aware of. Okay. With that, are there any other questions?
No, be nice to see him at the work session.
All right, fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So our next item of business this morning, we got our county attorney's office monthly update, I believe.
Actually, Mr. Chair,
No,
I think the
Drainage first.
Excuse me, I passed it. There you go. Thank you for reminding me. Craig, that's why you're sitting out there in the audience. Come on up, Craig. Drainage report.
Hey, Craig.
Morning, Craig.
Good morning.
Good morning, Craig.
I have 4 items here to bring before the board. First one on the agenda is the setting of the single-year levies. This is, we had a meeting with Kip and Will, and kind of discussed what we should be setting to different levies on the different ditches here. And the report in your packet there is what was recommended.
I'll move approval of the single-year levies.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion from Commissioner Brunder on the single year and a second from Commissioner Purvis. And I see you got a sheet included with all the different ditches, repairs, and it's $640,500. Is that your single year?
That's the single-year levy, yes.
Yes. And then I know that you're much more aware of it, but just wondering if you can give us a brief synopsis of how you guys come up with this.
A couple weeks ago, Commissioner Purvis, myself, the Administrator Bob Meyer, Lisa Malinsky from Finance, and Michael, and Stahlberger, and Ryan. Was Ryan there?
No, Ryan
No,
wasn't there.
Okay. Yeah, he was gone. So we all met for a couple hours. We go through them one by one, each individual one. We highlight the ones that need attention. We talk about them, we make them adjustments, and then we bring this recommendation to the board. So there's a couple hours of effort put into it at that meeting, but there's several hours of discussion between Finance, Stahlberger's office, and Craig to come up with the recommendations that we do. But Will and I will make some adjustments as we're in that meeting.
So you look at historically what you've done in the past?
Yeah,
and what-
that's, we put together a kind of a spreadsheet showing what's happened the last 5 years. You know, give you an idea if there's some continuing problems. We also look at what we're expecting for the next year, what money we're going to be spending, and that's also part of the formula.
Okay. And
So
then-
far, it's been a good process. We've been fairly accurate through
Oh,
the years,
good.
so.
We try to get all of them, we try to get all of them
Yeah.
out of the negative, but we pull one out, one falls back in, so
I know,
Bob
I
and the
know.
auditors follow that very
Auditors always
closely.
catch it, don't they?
Well, there's always incidents, there's always floods, there's always stuff that changes things, so. Something collapses.
So we've gotten better at that through the years,
Yep.
too. We don't have as many of them in the
Correct.
negative as we had many years ago, so.
I'm keeping on top of the several I have.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's a couple.
Took care of all my ditches.
Right. And so that number to the right here on this assessment for 2019, that's a lot of times what we see when you give us our little monthly update when there's a repair required on something that says how much is in the account. It comes from this
Well,
estimate, doesn't it? In a sense.
that's part of the formula. This is just what we're going to be assessing for
Right.
2019 for the single year levies
Just for 1 year.
for 1 year.
Okay.
The next item would be for the multi-year levies.
Okay. Well, that's the one I would see then probably on that sheet.
You see them both.
Yeah.
Do they both come up?
Yeah, they both come up, yeah. That's all part of the formula as far as when you're looking at, you're talking about when you're looking at
The repairs.
approving repairs, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all built
This
into that
was
number.
figured into there, yeah.
It does. Okay. Yep. That's how the money gets there anyway. All right. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Next item is the multi-year levies. In this particular document, we have all the levies that we have that are still outstanding and still being paid. It will be part in 2019. The new ones are on the bottom. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new multi-year levies on the bottom. But this is a document. This is what gets approved every year by the board.
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion for approval from Commissioner Sturenberg and second from Commissioner Purvis. And is this page 24 then in our packet?
Yes.
Yes.
And so the ones that say bond,
Those are ones that were actually bonded for. We actually have outside bonds. The ones that do not have nothing on it are projects where we're using actually general funds, borrowing from the general fund.
okay.
Mr. Chair, you may recall that we set aside some funds
funds.
from our fund balance to utilize for this purpose.
Okay. And so this levy then, the ones that say bonding, this will help continue to pay towards those bonds from all those landowners.
We've actually bonded on those.
Already.
Again, we're repaying the bond on those, yes.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion about that? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Third item on is order for a final acceptance hearing of the contract on County Ditch 78. I'm recommending it be held on November 27th at 9 a.m. right here in the Commissioner's room. So, yeah.
Move approval?
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion for approval to have a final acceptance public hearing, is that correct?
Yes.
For County Ditch
Contract,
78.
yeah.
And that'll be here on November 27th at our board meeting. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Okay. And the fourth item here is we let bids for a project in County Ditch 28. This is a repair project. This is basically portion of the old main line, branch 6 and branch 7 repair. The low bidder was Sellers Construction LLC from Mapleton of a total bid base of $187,443.80. Second bidder is Groundwater Management from Brewster at $193,300. $220,386. The engineer's estimate was $220,388. So both the low bid and the second low bid were below the engineer's estimates.
That's good news.
Only one other item to note here, we did have some issues with some of the bidders not having the appropriate forms. What we did was we contacted those bidders and had all 3 bidders that did not have, were missing a form. We had them allowed them to make that correction literally within hours of the bid opening. So all bids were included.
Well, that's very good.
Yeah.
You did that. Yeah. Hate to have, I'm sure that they would hate to have to be kicked out just because of something they forgot to put in.
Technicality.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is one I remember we've had some public hearings and things on. Was there any comments, anything else towards the end of all this process for this repair?
Not after the bidding, no. I mean,
Prior to that, those things got worked out?
all that was worked out at the hearings, of course, when the repair was approved.
I can't remember. I thought there was one question that was going to be worked out on that. The last one we had here, but that was...
We've had several landowner meetings.
Yeah.
I think the landowners are all in agreement that this project has to be done.
Yes.
It's difficult because of all the money we've spent on the improvement, but it has to be done.
So they're happy it's below estimate. So I mean,
Of course, we haven't sent any notification to the landowners of that it's below, but yeah, they'll be happy that it is coming in below the bid, below the estimate.
Good. Okay. Anybody else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Craig. Appreciate that. Everybody doing all right? Do we need a break or anything?
Doing fine.
Okay. Now, I guess. We got Pat McDermott, our county attorney, give us an update here and talk about this Child Advocacy Center grant and some agreements.
Morning, Pat.
Good morning, Pat. Morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. The Child and Family Advocacy Center grant requires board approval. As you'll see, I believe it's in the amount of $172,000, which will be technically from October 1st through September 30th of 2019. So I didn't know if you had any questions, concerns, comments regarding this. This is a continuation of the project that we started going on probably 3 years ago, I believe, was when Commissioner Brunder was board chair, and he and Commissioner People have been involved with this as well as Mr. Meyer as we move forward. So.
Yeah. And can you give us just maybe a 30-second elevator speech about the Child Advocacy Center?
Sure. The Child and Family Advocacy Center, basically, Mr. Chair, what I've indicated before is it's not that we're doing anything wrong. When I refer to we, I mean Human Services, Law Enforcement, our office. It's just that this is a welcoming environment that focuses more on the needs of the child. We've been doing this for years, but we can improve on the process. And simply that's what we've undertaken to do. This center will be housed out of the East Ridge Clinic, and we've partnered with Mayo, and we're looking at other community partners in the area to enhance the services provided to the child, because one of the things, the premise is that in what we do, we typically have been trained over the years to respond to an event. And so instead of responding to that event, we're basically responding to the needs of the child and the adverse childhood experiences, studies, and whatnot. And I know that Mr. Meyer is very well aware of a bunch of the preventative things in his course of time with Human Services. This is another way of treating these issues, and it's something that in the great scheme of things, and I've told you this before, and the other board members as well, that you will make decisions today that you will not see, the results of, in your careers. So this is just another way to enhance the delivery of services to those children. We have been working, and we will be putting linkage agreements together with other service providers to, instead of saying, well, you might want to do this, you might want to do this, it'll be more of a handoff to the mental health providers and whatnot. The Open Door Health Center has given us a standing spot in the rotation, so to speak, of every other week that we can send a child there and they hold that spot open, so they are able to get those services sooner rather than later. That's just one small example of what we're doing. And within that, this will ultimately be a region-wide type of response. And what I've said for quite some time is we've agreed to drive the bus, so to speak, and at some point in time we'll be stopping the bus and handing the keys off. This will be a standalone nonprofit that we will be, Human Services will be, and law enforcement will be involved in, because it takes care of the statutory requirements of the child protection issues and one other thing to help enhance those delivery of services.
Okay. And then Bob, feel free to make a comment too, because it's just good to know. I mean, we've had some meetings to talk about child protection services here at the county this last month. You know, some residential concerns that people had about how our reporting was going. How does this fit in with, just curious how that might fit in with our Human Services? I mean, is there a staff person then that's provided? It's a liaison that kind of helps with reports of maltreatment or child protection? I didn't know.
If I can, go ahead, Bob. If you.
Well, I was just going to say this is really just adding to the resource base that's available to the child protection system. So it's another level of resource that's available here in our community rather than somewhere else around the state of Minnesota.
And within that, just so you're also aware, Mr. Chair, is when this is incorporated as a nonprofit, which hopefully will be by the end of the year, there will be 3 static positions on the board of directors, which will be a representative of Human Services, a representative of law enforcement, a representative from the county attorney's office, because those are the 3 primary players, so to speak, that are required statutorily to fulfill these duties and obligations.
Okay, interesting. Good. So it'll enhance what we've got in place already then, Bob.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I'll move approval of the grant.
Second.
Boy, that was a big second. What do we do?
We're kind of like all 3 of us.
All right, so we have a motion for approval from Commissioner Brunder and a second from Commissioner People. So that's all.
It's kind of what Pat was saying. I mean, this gives a little more friendly, or a little bit more of a better environment for the child and the family when something happens, and then just in a maybe a little bit harsher type settings.
Right,
yeah,
right.
It's a little bit more welcoming.
Less trauma and that sort of thing available.
It's a good thing for the young kids for sure.
Well,
Puts more tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Yep, the whole.
Blue Earth County has been ahead of the curve for years. I mean, they've been doing things to enhance otherwise tough situations for these victims. So this is just another excellent step forward in that.
okay, very good. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead, Pat.
Mr. Chair, thank you. The fiduciary agreement on behalf of the Sheriff's Office and the Minnesota River Valley Drug Task Force, just by way of background, I've been on the board of directors for the Drug Task Force for over 15 years. The Drug Task Force, as you know, comprised of 4 counties and 6 other additional agencies, and then a representative from County Attorney's Office. This is a federal requirement that essentially Blue Earth County has been the fiscal host for the Drug Task Force for a number of years now. It used to be that the feds, when it came to asset sharing, would provide those funds directly to the task force, and now due to requirements that they've changed, those funds need to go to the fiscal host and be held in trust for the use by the Drug Task Force. Essentially, that's what this fiduciary agreement is outlining. And I simply request board approval and answer any questions which anyone may have.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval and a second for these Drug Task Force agreement and grant. Do we have any discussion on this?
I don't have any comments at this time. Good program.
For years.
Yeah, I think we've approved it. Is it annual or every other year?
Yeah.
Remember?
It works well.
This, I believe this agreement will be in place for as long as the task force is there until the feds decide to change things, perhaps. But this will provide additional funding outside of the typical revenue stream, which is all members pay into. And then typically the drug task forces relied on a burn grant. And there's, every year, depending on how things go, there's questions whether that additional funding stream will be provided. But I do know that it's a very good program as far as that goes, because it seems like any time you get involved with any major case investigation, there's typical controlled substances involved.
All right.
Good deal.
Yeah. Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you. I provided the monthly update of where we're at from the caseload portion of things. I will provide additional information with respect to a little over a week ago. We brought on an attorney, a new attorney that will be replacing Mr. Kelm. Todd Kosovich he actually started out quite a few years ago in Watonwan County and most recently was in Morrison County, has major case experience, is a good addition to the office. We do have 2 additional attorneys that are starting today, so hopefully once we get those 2 onboarded and through the processes, we'll be up to full staff. So I want to thank you for your patience and the help of Mr. Meyer for putting this forward and whatnot. But otherwise, if you have any questions, concerns, comments about any of the statistics or any other questions for the office, I'm more than happy to answer anything. But otherwise, on a monthly basis, the information speaks for itself. But I'm here to answer any questions.
Do they have any questions?
I don't, but I just appreciate the charts and the graphs, the update.
Well, this keeps us online as what's going on in the county. We really appreciate what you do for us every month on this.
Okay.
I appreciate it too. I do look at them. Did have a question on the large pie graph on page 40.
Yes.
And the percentages that you've got there, and the green forfeitures. That means that's a lot of the work that your office does then? Or what
Well, it's a larger part of the caseload, but as far as, for example, tax court is 17% of the caseload. Those cases are more involved typically. Most times the forfeitures don't take as much time. The condemnation file, that's going to be an extremely small portion, but that has been a large resource that is taken away from not only our office, but the county and various other areas as well. So from a timing standpoint, there's more time spent elsewhere on the forfeitures. Many of the forfeitures are not contested, probably only half are contested. So from a timing standpoint, but that's just a larger number of cases
So
which
that's
we have.
that's what I'm saying. You're using just a number.
Correct.
Sheer number.
Correct. Sheer number. It doesn't have anything about the amount of time spent. It's the old.
I was wondering. I thought, man.
Right. It's the old 80-20 theory and 90-10 theory. You spend 90% of your time on 10% of the caseload. So.
Yeah, okay. And then the land-related.
Right.
That's not related necessarily to forfeitures. That's separated.
Those typically come from environmental services and the highway department, or if we have questions relating to zoning issues, those are typically the ones that get thrown into the land-related category. We can break things down further, but I just want to try to keep things on a more macro level so we know what area we're in.
Yeah, okay.
You don't have anything in here in reference to, charging, like crimes.
Not in this graph. This is strictly what we would refer to the civil area, non-human services, non-child protection, non-adult protection. Those are kept elsewhere. But we will get into some of the medical recovery will be included in this that we've been involved with. We will also get into any of the guardianships, conservatorships that the county gets involved with during the given course of any year, which was probably about 6 to 8 cases a year that we get involved with.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Anything else?
Anybody?
Just have a question about the Mankato cases. I see they're pretty significant numbers. Do you feel that you have enough staff that came over to handle those?
Well, and that's one thing that I've been talking with Administrator Meyer a little bit about on kind of some of the shifting of responsibilities, and as of right now, and we've had conversations, I started conversations earlier this summer with the city of Mankato with respect to some of this, and as things increase, we're just keeping a watchful eye on things, but at this juncture, we should be okay. I know every year, Commissioner Purvis, for the last 2 years, I've shown each of you all the breakdown of the graphs and all the comparisons and whatnot, and our per attorney caseload is still higher regionally and from the state perspective as well, but that's something that we'll be keeping an eye on, and I'll be providing that additional information after the first of the year.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything
Thanks
else?
a lot. No, thank you very much, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
All right. Should we go ahead and take a short break?
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Okay. Let's take a short break and see you back here soon. So, should we done with our break?
Yep.
Back here to complete some business. Something came to our attention. Should we just go ahead and deal with it right away, Bob?
Yep.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we realized that we did not get a motion and a second on the County Ditch 28 bid award, and so I'd like to go back and kind of clean that up.
Sure. That makes
I'll
sense.
make a motion.
We went from discussion to discussion.
Yep. I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we got a motion for approval from Commissioner Stuenberg and a second from Commissioner Purvis. And this is for the bids on County Ditch number 28.
Yep.
We're doing Main Line, Branch 6, and Branch 7. And there were 7 bids that were received for this Main Line and for the 6 and 7. And the lowest bid was Sellers Construction LLC from Mapleton, correct?
Yes.
And it was lower than the estimate, and that came in at $187,443.80. So, any other discussion or comments about this? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Bob, and then, so now we can move into further administrative services.
Thank you, Mr.
Bob?
Chair. The first item is the county board minutes for October 23rd.
Move to approve.
Okay, we got a motion for approval and a second on the county board minutes from our last board meeting on October 23rd. Any changes or updates or challenges? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is the bills for actually 5 weeks. You'll recall that at the last meeting, we had a little technical issue, and so we had to carry over 2 weeks worth of bills, and then it's been 3 weeks since we last met. So
I'll move the bills.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval. Commissioner Purvis, second from Commissioner Brunder. Does anybody have any questions on the bills or on the financial transactions that are listed in our packets?
Got a few.
Okay.
We're going to start, I think the first week is Mathwitz Construction for $1,067,000. I'm sure it's County Road 1, but
that is correct. It is County Road 1.
all right. Then Southern Minnesota Construction for $233,000. Same week.
That is CASA 12.
CASA 12. Okay, second week, Egan Company, Building Acquisition Construction. I think there's 2 of them,
Yeah, identical.
both for $124,000 and $124,017.50.
I had that one too, Vance.
That is part of our government center project, and so we're splitting some of these bills between the building and the site development. So it's just an accounting in terms of how those dollars are being accounted for.
Okay. Groundworks Backhoe Service, contracted service, $148,000.
That is JD 9, so it's a ditch project.
Okay. Let's see. Back in the week, October 25th through the 31st. What week is that? Gustavus Drainage, Gustafson Drainage, $220,000.
Repeat the week, please. The 25th through the 31st, is that the week?
Yeah,
All right.
yep. Gustafson Drainage.
That is JD 9.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Welcome. I don't have any questions.
Commissioners? Just had a couple.
I don't have any.
The first week there back in October, one of the companies was titled Further, F-U-R-T-H-E-R, and it's for $10,192. I was just wondering what that is. Never seen it before.
Further is the organization that's managing our flexible spending account. So it used to be Select Account. They've changed their name.
Okay, so I was right, because we've never had that before, have we?
It may have shown up, but it was a change that happened this year.
Oh, okay, I just didn't see that. And then, let's see here. Of course, I know this is common, but I just got to ask anyway. It's a lot of cash. It's a Blue Earth County with Bremer Bank, $5 million, and moving something around, or?
Which week?
Well, week 2, I believe.
Sorry, I'm not finding it.
Okay.
What do you guys sell there? Is that-
Yeah,
I'm sure we're just moving some money into the magic
that's
fund.
what I'm thinking too. It's, yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, if it's an even $5 million, that's
It's an even $5 million.
That's what it is.
transferring from a savings account or to a money market account.
Okay. It would have been, it's right in the same week as October 11th through the 17th. And it would be on the first page.
I'm sorry, it's right there in front of me. It was a transfer to savings.
Transfer to savings?
Yes.
Okay. And then, I believe it's week 3. It would be, that's October 18th to the 24th, does that sound right?
Yes.
And it says here, and I'm just clarifying, I know we see it all the time, but this is our normal amount we usually pay. I don't know, St. Peter Regional Treatment Center, State Hospital, $20,611. And that's just because we have somebody there probably from our county.
Yeah, those billings encompass a number of different classifications of clients that are placed at St. Peter's. So it could be the poor relief type of billing. It could be sex offenders. It could be a combination of all of them.
Could be any of them.
Right.
They don't classify it differently then.
It's broken down on the bills, but
Okay.
not in this material here.
Okay. And then the INS group, I believe it's in the next week. So it's kind of confusing because it says here, okay, I believe it's October 25th to the 31st. I could look. It might be actually in November 1. It's INS contracted services for $59,745.
That is in the fourth week. That is
Fourth,
a number of ditches that they were doing work.
So it's not just one
No.
project.
No.
And then Bruns Construction too, I believe is the same week, 56,000. They're on several of the weeks I noticed. But Bruns Construction, 56,384. I've seen them on several of our weeks, so just curious what project they're working on.
That was County Ditch 35, the $56,000 bill in week 5.
Okay, so they got that contract done.
Yes.
Last one was WW Blacktopping. They did some work. And then the biggest bill they had there for improvements was $40,900.
That was work that they did at the Ponderosa. We did end up paving the parking lot out there.
Oh,
Actually,
the big one in the back?
actually out front.
At the front, okay.
We had some problems with trucks backing up and hitting the light pole in the middle of the parking lot, so we ended up paving the lot and making a better route for people to move around in that area around the scale.
Oh, okay.
Looks nice. Be a nice addition.
Really?
That out there.
We'll see it this afternoon.
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's all the questions I had, Bob. So, we've got a motion and a second for the bills. Anybody else? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay.
Now, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 11 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. We do have one action item for consideration today. This is the reclassification of a legal assistant 1 to a legal assistant 2 in the county attorney's office. This is really being brought forward as a result of some turnover in the county attorney's office and the need for some additional capacity within the department as it has grown over time. And so bringing that here for the board's consideration today.
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion from Commissioner Struenberg and a second from Commissioner Brunder. And this is for to consider the reclassification of the legal assistant from B31 to legal assistant 2, B32. So is it a position change or is it a person change? I'm just curious.
It's the classification of the position, so it will put it into a higher band, so additional earnings power, but also the ability then with our pay equity to have some additional responsibilities assigned to an individual.
So it's already...
Could you explain what, workload conditions, what they would be?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you, Commissioner Sternberg. Essentially, over time and in the last 4 years, we've absorbed the City of Mankato prosecution. Our caseload continues to grow, as does the entire county, based upon the regional circumstances of the economy and whatnot. So with that growth is additional responsibilities, and we're attempting, this is part of not necessarily a restructure, but trying to divide some of those responsibilities and roles and duties out with other people. And actually, we've had other people step up and have been doing many of these things, but this is simply also recognizing that as we continue to grow, that there is more need for people to take on a higher skill set, higher responsibility workload. So we had 2 individuals for quite a few years at the band of B32, and with what we're doing is moving one of the B31s to a B32, so we will have 3 B32s, 2 B23s, I believe, is the band, and then the remainders are B31s. So this is in addition. We've also taken on, for the last 2 years, and we intend to continue contracting with MRCI. We have an individual that has been up to 24 hours a week that has been helping in the areas with the data entry and case scanning and processing and whatnot, and we're attempting to actually defer some of those additional costs and put as much time and effort into those types of things that we can. But this is just another way of sharing the responsibility, so to speak.
I see.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
It probably relates to further down under informational then too, because I see somebody's going from a B1 to a B32.
Yes.
B31.
Right. Well, there's kind of the domino effect, so to speak. We have one individual that, as a result of the retirement of one individual that would be going from a B31 to a B32, there will be an additional person coming from the B31 to the B32, and then we'll be having, I think one of the last things there was the individual that is at the B23 will be moving to the B31, and we've started recruitment for the B23. if you can follow along, it's been kind of long, and this is addition to, you know, the promotion a couple of months ago of a new managing attorney as well, and the onboarding of additional attorneys, so.
Sounds like a new version of bingo.
You can say that. And if you followed that along with the dot to dot, you're a better man than me.
Who's on first? What's on second?
I don't know who's on third.
Yeah, I mean, most of it shows up in the informational below, but just curious. Okay, so we have to do some action on this one because you're adding an additional.
Correct. We're
Change.
keeping the number of bodies the same. We're moving one person from one classification to another to recognize the additional responsibilities that individual has taken on.
Okay.
Do we not even vote yet?
Yeah, it's all done.
We got to vote.
It's Struenberg and motion, and Kip Rogers
Okay,
second.
let's not forget that vote.
So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Under informational items, then you will see quite a bit of activity in the county attorney's office where we have employed 2 additional assistant county attorneys or replacing positions in those cases. We also have filled a taxpayer services specialist position as well as a child support enforcement specialist. Then we get into some more of the promotional activity in the county attorney's office with the promotion of a legal assistant 1 to a legal assistant 2 and authorization to initiate recruitment to refill that legal assistant 1. There has also been a promotion of a clerical specialist to a senior account clerk in the Human Services Department, resulting in the authorization to initiate recruitment of another clerical specialist 1. Again, another promotion of a legal assistant to a legal assistant 1 in the county attorney's office with authorization to initiate recruitment for a legal assistant. And then the last item is authorization to initiate recruitment for a clerical specialist 2 in the probation department to backfill an upcoming retirement. Be happy to answer any questions that the board has on those items.
Pat?
Yes, sir.
What is the requirements to be a legal assistant?
To be a legal assistant, we've got various requirements. Depending on the level, we take into consideration both education, 4-year, 2-year, and then years of experience. We don't want to exclude people simply because they don't have the degree, but that's kind of a sliding scale, so to speak, and it just depends. We typically look for someone with at least 2 years of experience at the very bottom level. We typically want somebody at the middle level that has had at least 5 years of experience and or a 2-year certificate, and then for the top level we typically look for 10+ years of experience and or a 4-year degree and a combination of those two.
Okay, so they're not required to be attorneys.
No, they are simply the legal staff. I guess, you know, legal assistants is the...
I mean, there are some attorneys that are legal assistants in other areas.
In other areas, but not, the legal assistants we're referring to here would, you know, when you and I were growing up, it was the secretaries, essentially.
Okay.
So they assist the attorneys, and they, you know, we're fortunate in the capacity because if we were in private practice, the rule of thumb is typically for every attorney, you have a legal assistant and a paralegal. Well, we typically are roughly 1 legal assistant to 2 attorneys. So, and that's why we've always tried to enhance the technology. Where sometime next month we should be starting on the conversion to another platform that is web-based. We've been having various discussions for well over a year on that. So at any point in time we can enhance the technology and save the people time. That's what we've been doing. And so I know that we had these discussions back in June when we first started the budget considerations and talks, and this is just a carryover from what we've continued to be doing. Because, you know, especially with law enforcement having more and more technology available to them, it's that platform that we need to be able to support. So anytime we can utilize technology and cut down on bodies, that's what we try to do.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to the bid award then for the Poor Farm.
All right, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 12 in your packet is the county Poor Farm bids. We did go out and advertise for bids because the current operator that held the lease for the Poor Farm indicated that they were not interested in the second year of that agreement, so it is a little unusual that we're back out to bids 1 year later. But we did advertise, 2 bids were received. Unfortunately, one of the bids was withdrawn after it was open, and so the second bid was the $205.50 that's indicated in your packet, and so we're recommending approval of that lease to Steve and Aaron Trio Farms of Mapleton in the amount of $205.50 per acre.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion for approval, Commissioner Purvis, second from Commissioner Brunder. And then I just had a quick question that popped in my head really fast here. It looks like we're back to 2009 rates, basically. I mean, is that really where we're at?
Yes.
It's pretty good. You ran all land, I know.
Yep, no, that's pretty common.
We have been getting pressure from some of our other leasers on property out by the Ponderosa, and so I did reduce some of those rates even beyond this, so it is a challenging environment.
What are their leases?
So there's 2 farm properties kind of on either the north or south end of the Ponderosa that are farmed by 2 different operators.
That's beyond this acreage?
Yes. That's
And how many acres do we have there?
I don't recall off the top of my head, somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 total probably.
Okay.
What'd you reduce them to?
Well, in those cases, they are paying the property taxes, so
Okay.
I believe we're down to around 130 an acre. But in this case, we're paying the property taxes, so if you combine them, you know, we're probably in a 180 range on those in a combined fashion versus this 205.
Oh, that's fair.
How long a contract was this one, Bob? Just 1 year?
It's a 1-year agreement with an option for them to do a second year. I'm a little concerned, quite frankly, about our practice there in terms of how the land is being managed in terms of nutrients and fertilizer and stuff, and so we may want to think about whether we look to a farm management company to assist with that to ensure that we're not kind of destroying the nutrients or anything.
Soil,
you know, I mean,
the health of the soil.
you know, I think we're working with reputable farmers that will do what they need to do, but you know, in this sort of environment where it's changing, it does raise those concerns, quite frankly.
Okay. Yeah.
There's I've always thought about the Poor Farm and other properties, and thought about our homeless population and how possibly we could use it, whether we not necessarily use that property, but maybe we trade it with an area that's closer to Mankato and possibly use it to build properties, possibly something for low-income housing. I mean, we're really not getting that much for this property anymore, and it's one of those things that maybe we can help our area out by improving our low-income housing by using some of the land that we have. But it's just a thought process and something we'd have to talk about in the future.
Sure. Anything else on these?
Hard to give up income-producing property, though, when you stop and think about it.
I understand that, but you know, we have such an issue with the homeless and low-income housing. Maybe we could use some of our acreage that we have, which obviously we have. This is close to 200 acres, and we have another 150 acres, you said, another, so, I mean, it's not being used for what it was originally meant for. It was originally meant to be a poor farm where we did help the homeless. And that's, you know, so it's just a thought process. It's certainly going to have to do a lot more than just thinking here in this boardroom. This room, we need to have work sessions and we need to have other people work on it.
I remember you too, Commissioner, talking about what's wrong with manufactured homes. You know, what's wrong with having trailer houses, and a lot of people are. That's a good option for them. And if we could identify a piece of land, maybe for that purpose, you know, I don't know. I mean,
like I said, that's what I would like to talk about and work with. Possibly go into a relationship with the city of Mankato and maybe do a public-private partnership with other places and see if we can work together and help some of our homeless population.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 13 is a renewal of a medical examiner agreement. This is the same agreement that we've had in place for the last few years, and so this really is a renewal of the medical examiner agreement that's been in place. This would be a 3-year renewal at the same rates that we've been paying. The Sheriff's Department reports that this arrangement is working very well, and so they're recommending approval here today.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion for approval, Commissioner Stuenberg, seconded from Commissioner Brunder. Any questions or comments? So is this the doctor, is it one specific doctor?
Well, Dr. McGee is the primary.
And so then he designates other people to help him?
I would imagine.
Yes. Says he got Dr.
Based
Kelly
on the
Millis,
volume.
Victor Froloff, and Dr. Butch Huston.
They have a whole staff of.
They all help you with it. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, then item number 14 in your packet are the third quarter donations from July through September. The vast majority of the monetary donations, again, go to the library, with one donation to the Sheriff's Department for the kids' fishing event. But you'll see all the items listed there. For the library, the Friends of the Deep Valley Library are the major contributor in this period for the summer reading program. We also outline the in-kind products that were provided as well. Again, the library is the largest recipient of items there, along with, again, one item to the Sheriff's Department. And then we also outline the volunteer time that has been given to the library, and make note of that. So we're recommending that the county board accept the donations report for the third quarter.
Okay.
So moved.
Commissioner Brunder makes a motion for accepting, seconded by Commissioner
Stuenberg, you've been getting
Stuenberg. I'm sorry.
Just
seconded by Commissioner Purvis.
Sending my voice your way there. It kind of went right through you, so it looked something like.
So, any more comments or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Motion carries.
Item number 15 in your packet is the financial status report for October 31st of the year. We're 2 months short of the end of our fiscal year, and you'll see that our total revenues are just under 84 million against expenses slightly over 82 million. This has been an unusual budgeting year due to some large dollar amounts related to public works, turnback funds, as well as the decision that was made partway through the year to bond for some of the government center projects. So while we anticipated a large deficit as resulting from the government center project, right now it looks like we'll probably end more on a balanced or fairly close to a balanced year, depending on kind of how the last 2 months go. But you'll see that when you compare expenses from 2017 to 2018, our expenses are only up 2.2%, but our revenue is up 12.2%. A lot of that is those turnback funds that have been received but haven't been fully expended. So it will have some impact on future years as that turnback project and those expenses start to materialize. Now at the bottom of that first page, you'll see the Ponderosa landfill. As we've mentioned or talked about before, our revenues are exceeding our expenses there, largely due to the fact that we haven't been doing any cell development or major capital purchases there. So building a little bit of fund balance in that area. The second page then lists out our cash and investment balances. We currently are sitting at, really in county funds, $113 million, up a little bit from prior years, again, partly due to some of those funds in the Public Works Department that have been received and not fully expended. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have on the financial status report.
Board have any questions?
Looks good.
I don't.
Good. Nope.
Yeah, it gives us a running account of how things are going, and we kind of know how that goes with all the revenue, and we get property taxes coming in. And
Yes, the November report will look maybe even a little better because we'll have those second half taxes to fill in some of the gaps as well.
okay. Was there anything else? And let's see what we got. We got mine on the backside here. Commissioner reports. Looks like that's next. Who'd like to start off? Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
I can start, Commissioner, if you'd like me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
After our last board meeting, I had our State Emergency Communication Board conference call. Everything's moving along pretty well there. We're just kind of getting the update on what they're going to try to present to the legislator coming up right around the corner. And then Commissioner People and I were at a MRCI event they had, Whose Line Is It Anyways?, which was a very well-attended event, and it's based on that show with Drew Carey, apparently, and there's about 10 citizens from the community that were there, and they would do different acts and stuff, and it was kind of a comedian act, and just a lot of fun, but they raised a good deal of money. They had 30 tables, and they sold all the tables, and there's probably 200-300 people in the audience, I would imagine. So and the tickets are $50 a piece donation. So I'm hoping it's going to be a good event to raise some money, and most of that money will be used for the transportation program at MRCI to help get the consumers around. They used to do the go-kart race. That's what this is kind of taking the place of. But the go-kart race was a lot of fun. People really enjoyed it, and it got a lot of education out there. But it was just expensive to hold. So we'll have to see how this one shakes out. But it was a great program. Then we had our extension meeting the other night and got the reports from the staff. We did our evaluation, and all of the extension committees are up for renewal this year. So we'll be looking we're going to figure out which ones want to stay on the committee, and then we'll let them stay on, and then we'll have to be lobbying to get some other people to participate. So we need 6, so we'll be working on that, and we'll try to get that done and ready for the organizational meeting in January. Had mayors and clerks that evening. Had a speaker from the backpack program. I came in just a few minutes late because I was at the extension meeting, and she did a nice job telling us a little bit about what they do, and very exciting, doing a lot of things, and then doubling in size, and great piece for the community. Several Veterans Day programs on Sunday, made it up to the Legion for the hog roast. They had a really good turnout. Went from 11 o'clock to 2 and had a full crowd the whole time. I was there till about 10 to 2, and then we had to get to another program, but good turnout. And then this morning we had canvassing meeting and went over the election results with Mr. Stahlberger, who does a fine job with the canvassing board and with our elections all in general. Thanked him and his staff for all their hard work and a relatively smooth election. Brings me today, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stewart?
You ready?
Sure.
All right. Right after our last board meeting, I think all of us went down to the TZD conference for the lunch.
Yeah, forgot about that.
And I stayed and went to a session on what's called a deadly distraction the first 72 hours. It was a case study of a 10-year-old girl that was struck and killed while sitting alongside a rural road, and the driver didn't stop, and what steps the state patrol used to catch and convict the driver. And then there was another session that afternoon on how to use crash data to focus enforcement efforts and the resources from the Office of Traffic Safety that provided data specific to a city or county that will help plan and focus law enforcement's and set saturations for using that. The next day I came back and went to the TZD conference. There was a session on drones, and that was an overview of federal and state laws regarding drones. Since we are using drones here in the county, I figured that'd be a good one to go to, and it really opens up some eyes on what drone usage can do and what they, they've actually had cases where people using drones have, just using them have hit an airplane, and what it does with these little tiny drones, what kind of damage they can do. It's terrible. And then there was I went to another session that morning on encountering specialty vehicles and a practical understanding of laws around specialty vehicles, and they were talking about tractors, lawnmowers, different things that people drive on the road, and how law enforcement takes care of them. October 25th, I had a Highway 169 Coalition CHS terminal tour on the river. That was kind of fun. We didn't go out in the river, but looking at the terminal up there in Savage, it was kind of interesting on how the grain gets there, what grain using the 169 and stuff gets up to Savage. And that evening and also Friday, the next day, the 26th, I acted in the Historical Society's Ghosts of the Past. So on the 29th, we had a 169 Coalition Executive Board. On October 30th, I had a Public Works Road Tour that we all were on. And then some of us also went to the Dublin Crossing. I think, Mark, you went to that, didn't you? That Dublin Crossing open house. Yep.
Yeah. Must have missed that whole day, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. November 2nd, we had our district meeting for AMC. And then November 6th, we had our work session. And then I think we all showed up for Krista Amos's funeral that day also. November 7th, we had a department head meeting. On November 8th, I attended the Transportation Alliance 125th annual meeting, and Colleen was there too. We had talks from former Congressman John Mica and then NACE Executive Director Kevin Stone, who used to run the transportation part for NACO. And then Congressman Tom Emmer also stopped by, and we were able to talk with him. After that was over, I had a 169 Coalition, quarter coalition meeting in Shakopee. And then we had a manager for Ames Construction that gave an update on the 16941 project, which is huge project up there by Shakopee. It's going to go on for a couple years before they get it done. It's like a $47 million project. And then we set our budget for the next year and lowering our yearly rates by 1/2 for 2 years. So you'll get a lower rate from 169 Coalition for 2 years. We have a rather high amount in our coffers right now. There was talk about just not having any rates, but then there was going to be some places that probably went back up again. So we just figured lower it by 1/2 for 2 years, and that would work. And then we elected officers for the next year with, and I was blessed to being voted in as chair again for the 169 corridor. And I believe that's the end of mine.
That's very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Who's next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff has been mentioned already, but after the board meeting, we all had the lunch at the TZD conference, and then Kip and I came back and did the ditch advisory thing where we set the levies. So
Forgot that, too.
then yeah, that's okay. We'll cover for you.
We take care of each other around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, would have taken too much time.
Yeah, and then on the 24th, I was back at the TZD conference, and I have to say that I never saw so many young cops in my life. I know they let 12-year-olds be.
I absolutely. I tend to agree with you.
So old. Yeah, but I like Vance attended a couple of excellent sessions. The one that I found the most was on sleep patterns. I like that one.
But that's a big issue.
That is a very big issue for people that work shifts and stuff and driving, and so that very, very interesting. Then on the 25th we had the Hafner open house. Were you at that one, Kip?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So okay, we'll cover for you. So the road.
You just missed a week.
Yeah. On the 30th, we had the road tour. Excellent road tour. I really enjoyed that tour. Then on the 1st, I had the Crystal Seasons briefing. Always enjoyable to get together with those folks and let them know what's going on in the county. Then on the 2nd, we had AMC district meeting over in Waseca at Farm America. That was excellent meeting. Work session on the 6th and 7th is department heads, where we gave Tim Hayes a send-off, where he retired.
That's right.
Is he done now, Bob?
I believe tomorrow's his last.
Tomorrow's his last.
He was on the radio this morning when I came in. So he was been doing that for 16 years on the radio.
Yeah, and that's something. So, and then I had the Brown County Evaluation Center board meeting yesterday, and we got a good financial report. This last couple of months has been a profit for them over there. Sad news is there's another detox closing. Was it up towards the metro someplace? So another detox is closing. So that will put more pressure on the existing detoxes. So that said, we are dealing. They're dealing with some employee retention issues. So as we.
The one in Nome?
Yeah. We worked out some incentives for people that continue to work there for a longer period of time, and some recruiting benefits and that type of thing. So all in all, things are going well there, and that's my report.
Okay. Thank you. And I think a lot of places are looking at some of those employee retention issues and even attracting. Sort of becoming a bigger issue all over the state.
Yeah, anybody that has 24 hours, 7 days a week is is having problems with retaining employees.
You ready?
Yeah, Commissioner Mark People.
All right. TZD after our board meeting. On the 22nd, we had lunch there, and then next morning went over then for the little part of the TCD, and I caught the speaker. One of the things was for autism, how to deal with people with autism. Thought that was interesting, knowing people with autism, young kids. It was interesting. Then at 25th, I had our Partners for Affordable Housing, our monthly meeting, and we were getting things all finalized for our first ever, what we had last night, chili cook-off. So I'll talk about that later. And then we had the Hafner Drive open house, which was Commissioner Brunder was there too, though. So I talked about. Hey, I do this.
I think we're picking on you.
It happens. It happens. I do that. Some of us have other commitments too. We can't.
At least I'm forgetting things I've done and not forgetting things I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
That's true.
You're doing well. Then we had, let's see, October 30th, we had the Public Works Road Tour and the Dublin Crossing opening that several of us were at. And October 31st, I did go to the Blue Zone presentation up at MSU. Oh. And that was, Christian was there, Fredericks from our ship. Yeah, interesting. I don't know. I'm from Albert Lee, and Albert Lee was the one that they tried to impress upon us and how it worked and how we could do it here. Yeah, it'd be interesting because it does strive to change lifestyles totally, So we'll see how it. I don't know really what the next step is with that, but November 2nd, yeah, we had a District 7 or AMC meetings at Farm America. November 6th work session. November 7th, I also went to the Blue Ridge County, their flood map thing with FEMA. Mm-hmm. Oh. And that was interesting. Of course, they seem to have a few house mitigations in my area, so I spent with Scott there on the maps. Interesting with that. And FEMA, they're pretty helpful, and they seemed to grasp the situation there. I had to remind them, though, that we had one of the covers of FEMA last year with our house that was going to go in the river. They didn't remember that. Then, let's see, that on the 8th, of course, we had mayors and clerks at Maggie Chase, and Commissioner Brunder was there, too, so, he gets around. Yeah. And then I went to Gaburba the 9th, the Friday morning public, and it was the Policy on Tech meeting. And then, of course, I'm probably missing other things too, but November 12th, yesterday was our Partners for Affordable Housing Chili Cook-Off at Snell Motors, and it was the first ever event. And Commissioner Brunder was there.
I forgot that one too.
Yeah.
That was a good event though. I was impressed.
He was there.
There was a lot of people for a first time event.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're
I
going to
didn't
do
know
that
about
again.
it very well. I wasn't informed.
Well, it was out there. We couldn't sell any tickets for it until after the 1st of November. So, but I had brought it up in the work session before. So anyway,
That's the United Way
yeah.
restriction on raising funds.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
They are fully aware what we were doing was fine. They just said we
Yeah.
couldn't sell tickets ahead until the 1st, but it's pretty quick. Then, of course, we concluded with, and Commissioner Brunder was there at the Canvas Board this morning. So there you go.
I think he did say that. He did mention that. The games.
Wow. Okay, so I'll try to do mine a little shorter than some of you guys. I don't know. 10:55. I got to write it down here just a second. 10:55.
Well, we were reporting on KIP stuff too, so that's a little slack. That doesn't count. That's a little slack. I'd take half of it off. It's nice to know that us old guys, remember things.
That's funny. Well, our last meeting, of course, was October 23rd, and Oh, we all had lunch at that statewide TZD conference. I just want to thank everybody who registered and came down and had lunch.
It was nice.
And Pat had lunch with us too.
Yeah.
So Pat, you were there. Thanks for coming down. We all.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, it was great. A lot of people. I would like to say it was the largest, I believe, conference Mankato
That's what they said.
has ever hosted. It was over 900 participants. So,
Never seen so much maroon in my life.
yeah, and
Yeah, there was a lot of maroon, some tan.
the only feedback I heard from some people was all of it was positive except for one thing, and that was they wish there was one more hotel downtown Mankato that was closer. And they just
Go
didn't-
get your post office going there, Drew.
No, I don't think so, Mark. But anyway, there needs to be another hotel. Either that or what about that parking ramp that is down by the Mankato downtown Civic Center? What do you call that parking ramp down there downtown? There's that was built to be able to put on about 3-4 stories if you want a hotel.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Gordon Awesome's down there. He's got the downtown.
The apartment building, you mean?
He owns that. Well, Matt helps to oversee that parking ramp right there, and he had that built so that with the city working it together on it, so that it's built to be able to sustain 4 more floors.
Wow.
If you want to build a hotel on top of it, so you could add more parking or.
Just need to have the private enterprise that wants to do that.
Right. No, I mean, I think it could happen. I really do think it could happen. So, because the need is there for downtown. I also attended the rest of the day, went to a couple of breakouts, went the next morning. I'll just report out on one real quick one. It was on older adults. They had about 3-4 different people there from different places around, up at St. Catharines, different places. It's becoming more of an issue as we have more older adults on the roads, as older adults are aging. In America, I think there's 11,000 people per day turning 65 per day. So we know that's happening. And the new diagnoses and the issues that are going on with cognitive disorders and how to handle that. You know, for families, for professionals, how do you identify that and work with people who are driving on our roads? There are some restrictive licenses that are out there for people that drive. Like if you can't drive at night, if you got some issues and things like that. But so groups like ARP, AAA, they're all looking at how can we make it safer for aging adults on our roads and for those that are impacted by their driving. It was a very good time, a very good discussion at that TZD conference. And then, of course, I just want to mention, we did have a good meeting with the county, with Phil Clausen, with Child Protection Services staff, with a couple of folks that are very concerned and good folks from our community who are concerned about how Child Protection Services does their reporting and investigations and things like that. So and Bob Meyer was there, Vance Struenberg was there, myself, anybody else that I'm leaving out, but I thought it was a very good meeting, very good follow-up, and put that kind of effort into it. And I want to thank our Child Protection Department for all the work that they do. And had a roundabout meeting up there at Public Works we talked about at Hafner. I think you were there, Kip. And that's the Hafner-Madison Avenue roundabout meeting. We didn't have a lot of folks, as reported on Friday the 26th. I attended the South Central Clean Energy Council meeting. That used to be the Renewable Energy Task Force. And they're no longer attached with Region 9, who used to provide a staff person. So they're also looking for people who are very interested in that and want to become the chair for that committee. They meet up at the South Central Cooperative Building in North Cato. And then October 30th, we did our public roads tour. Kip, you were at that. And we did the...
It's not funny anymore, Drew.
Okay.
Well, I think it's kind of funny.
No. Grand opening at the Dublin Crossing, and I know we were all there, including Kip. And Jack Considine was there. Senator Nick Frentz was there. We had council folks from North Mankato, the mayor, Erickson was there. I mean, we had good folks there. It was with Common Bond. We're really happy that we entered into giving them support for this project. 50-bed apartment, and it also has 10 for people who are really at risk. So they provide some, what do you call that, case management for those.
Counseling?
Yeah,
Very
those
nice.
10 people. 31st, I got Halloween candy down. Anybody get any Halloween candy on Halloween? 31st of October.
I gave it out.
I gave most of mine away. I saved a little bit. November 1st, let's see here. I had a luncheon meeting with Paul Emminga. He's a young man who's very engaging, and he has an organization he's developing called the Blue Earth Project, and he works with local environmental efforts. I don't know if you've met him yet or not, but maybe you'll have a chance to work with him and meet with him. And then on November 1st also, MnDOT South Central TZD Steering Committee meeting up at the MnDOT building here. And then Friday, of course, we had our AMC District Fall meeting at Farm America. Yeah, I thought that was nice to meet there over in Waseca County.
Yeah.
And got a chance to sing a little bit to Vance Strumberg. It was my last meeting. A lot of these meetings are my last meetings that I'm going to now. So it's kind of nice. Mayors and Clerks was my last one also.
Sing there, though.
I didn't sing at that one, though.
I was totally just taken back and just really appreciated the song you sang.
Did you really?
I did.
You didn't want me to sing it again, do you?
No.
Answer. Okay. Kiwanis Holiday Lights volunteered with the Lions Club, or not the Lions, what is it? The Kiwanis, and did it through the Optimists Club. Let's see. Did you do that too, Mark?
I forgot something.
See, he forgot something. Monday, November 5th, I also went to the Blue Earth County, Nicollet County TZD Safe Roads Committee, 1 p.m. Later on in the afternoon, I had a meeting with Bob, a monthly meeting. And then November 6th, of course, we had our Tuesday county work session, and we called it a little short because we lost somebody very near and dear, both to the city, the county HR department. Krista Amos, who had passed away, we went to her funeral in St. Peter at First Lutheran. And then November 7th, department head meeting. November 8th, I had a shack call in with the MDH. I've been chairing that committee all year. And then Mayors and Clerks meeting, Maggie J's in Mapleton. It was great. November 10th, it says I'm 62. Oh, yeah, it was my birthday Saturday. So if I want to, I can collect Social Security now. November 12th, which was yesterday, I attended the Care Providers Long-Term Care Conference. I typically try to take in 1 or 2 days, depending on what my schedule is. Dawn, runs a nursing home in Medelia, and they have many good breakout sessions, and I attended several of them yesterday up in Minneapolis. Got back here last night, so couldn't stay any longer. And they had about 1,000 people at that conference.
Oh, wow.
Pretty big. So, long-time relationship with Care Providers. And then today I just want to mention it's my son, Nicholas's birthday. He's 29 years old today, and very proud of him. We've got so much to be thankful for. And then today, we're going on our solid waste tour, right? And then we're going to have a little luncheon at Rounders, I believe, isn't it?
That's correct. You said it.
After our work session. There's a work session in there too.
Yeah. So we have to adjourn this meeting, and then we're going to have a short work session just to kind of talk about our committee assignments for everybody, including our new Commissioner-elect Colleen Landcamer, who is here with us today. So,
I'll move to adjourn.
second. All right, we got a motion for adjournment in a second, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.